All right. Well, we can go ahead and just get started. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Sami, Jilla. I'm the academic relations manager for Aspen Dental Management. So Aspen Dental Management is actually the organization that supports the Aspen Dental practices across the country. So right now there's about 815 Aspen Dentals across the US, and I work for the organization that supports those. Hence the term DSO, or Dental Support Organization. Today we have Dr. Christy, who I'll let introduce in just a moment. He has quite the amount of experience. You could consider him an OG with Aspen Dental. Unfortunately, Roma Patel, who is actually a Georgia grad, could not make it. Her due date, she's very pregnant right now. Her due date is tomorrow, so I have sympathy for her. I understand. Hopefully she can hop on. She said if she starts to feel a little bit better, she'll get on. But Dr. Christy, if you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and just give us a brief background about yourself, kind of where you are with the organization now, how long you've been here, and then something interesting about you to end off.
Well, I graduated from West Virginia University in 2006. Worked briefly in a private practice for about 6 months, and then joined Aspen Dental in January 2007. Came aboard as an associate, and then about 6 months later became what we call the managing clinical director. And then bought that practice off another owner later that year. That was up in New Hampshire. Since then, I've grown, had multiple partners, and expanded down into from New Hampshire to Vermont, Massachusetts, and then down into South Carolina and Georgia, where I kind of presently am mostly down in that market the majority of the year. But right now I'm actually up in New Hampshire because it's pretty hot down in Georgia right now. So I'm taking advantage of the cooler summers up here. So
I hear you. All right. Interesting fact about you. Or a boring fact, if you can't think of one.
I was going to say, most interesting fact is about 6 months ago, I bought a Sprinter van, and during the weekdays, I commute from office to office and actually live in that in a lot of Aspen Dental parking lots. So it kind of gets me through the week. I got sick of checking in and out of hotels. So with my dog, who's this little guy.
There he is.
Everywhere. So
awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So those of you just now joining, again, I'll share. My name is Sami, Jilla. I'm the academic relations manager. So there is an option on here titled Q&A, and you can see it at the bottom either of your phone or your computer, and you can type in a question anonymously that I'll be asking Dr. Christy. Again, Dr. Patel couldn't make it. She might be able to hop on later. She's not feeling well because she is pregnant. Her due date's literally tomorrow. But there were some of you that posed questions earlier on before this session. So we can go ahead and just start with one of those. Again, you guys can type down questions whenever you want. So out of the questions that were already submitted, I think a good one to start with is, what options did you look into coming out of school? And then why did you ultimately end up choosing Aspen?
Well, when I graduated, I took a job back in New Hampshire, a private practice. So a lot of people do. There was nothing wrong with the private practice, but it was a fee-for-service practice. And this is back when the housing market started to fail. And so a lot of patients would come in and they didn't have the money up front to pay for all the procedures. And so they might be scheduled for 3 or 4 fillings and they'd only be able to do 1 that day. I also found that the bigger procedures, the owner of the practice tended to take, and kind of left me with sort of the leftover stuff. So after about 4 months of that, I realized it really wasn't working. There wasn't enough patients to go around. And he kind of realized that too. I was the first associate he'd ever had. So there just wasn't enough patients for us. So I kind of scrambled and was looking at a couple other options like that. And then Aspen Dental came up and I realized, well, I saw that they had at least a guaranteed daily pay. So, which was at the time more than I was making in commission at the other office. So I was like, well, honestly, I kind of thought I'd do it for a year and then move on. But that was whatever that is, 14 years ago. So I kind of went out, took it as a whim and thought I'd just do it and then figure out what else I wanted to do. But I'm still here. So.
Good deal. So how was that transition though, coming from a private practice into a DSO?
Honestly, it was dentistry was dentistry. I mean, I think if anything, when I joined Aspen, I realized it was very much just like we had learned in dental school. Every patient that comes in, we take a comprehensive exam. We do an FMX on it. We come up with an overall plan to kind of get them from where they are to where they need to be. And so that's exactly the same type of triage type steps that you do in dental school. When you try to, maybe things extractions first, and then go through perio, and then any crown and bridge removal. And so, dentistry was dentistry there. When I came aboard, I was fortunate that there was another doctor there who was kind of my mentor, and she's actually still with Aspen, but she moved out to Oregon now. And she was able to teach me some of these stuff, some of the things that I didn't know, and kind of streamline it. And then I continued to grow and continue to learn, and I'm still learning. It's what I call practicing dentistry, so we're always learning. So
yeah. Here's another good one. I actually follow up with that. Do you feel that you've grown as a dentist since joining Aspen?
Well, unbelievably.
Yeah.
Dentistry, the thing that I noticed first when I joined Aspen was I was able to put my head down and look in the mouth. And actually, I tried to spend the first year or so just learning actually dentistry, how to improve my hand skills, and how to look at x-rays and try to narrow that 800 different options down into something that would work. And then after the first few years, when I started getting that down, I started looking around the room a little bit more and tried to get involved a little bit more with management. And the good thing about Aspen is they took care of that initially, so I didn't have to worry about that. But then later, as I wanted to get more involved, I could. And beyond that, I've continued to grow as a business owner as I've expanded and taken on partners. And now the majority of what I do is mentor other doctors or mentor other partners. And that can depend on, they could be a dentist with 30 years of dental experience, and maybe I'm helping them understand the business a little bit more, or just kind of tweaking what works for them and helping them out. Sometimes it's a doctor 3 years out that might have the dental skills, but needs to work, has more personal skills, whether it's how to deal with team building or patient issues, things like that, and trying to work with all the different personalities that can be at a dental practice.
Yeah. So another question here that was previously asked, what advice would you give to a dental student to be prepared coming out of dental school?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I look at is, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to need to learn, and just don't think you know everything, because if you think you know everything now, you're never going to learn anything. And I certainly don't know everything, whether it comes to dentistry or life in general. I always want to be continuously growing and learning, and hopefully looking back at the previous version of myself 3 or 5 years ago in dentistry and in life in general, and think, man, I'm an idiot in some way or another, because you're constantly learning and constantly being open to learn and trying new things, because dental school itself is relatively short in the grand scheme of things, and there's so many different ways to do things, and keeping our minds with that, and not just learning and just gaining that knowledge, that skill set.
Cool. So you working as a mentor, when a new dentist comes on board, what is something they typically find frustrating? I was trying to word that question properly.
I guess it really depends on the person or on the student. Some things can be frustrating. Just can't get a tooth out, or can't get the tooth restored, or they run into an issue with a patient that's not the nicest patient in the world, which exists out there, unfortunately, in the real world. There's even in dental school, I'm sure you guys have seen some patients that weren't the nicest to you. You might also get, are you old enough to be a doctor? You'll probably get that quite a bit. Are you still in school? It's annoying and repetitive all the time. I don't get that very much anymore or ever, Unfortunately, now I'm on the other end of it where I never get it, so that's annoying. But you'll get that quite often, or they want to see the other doctor because the other doctor's been there longer. So, who are you? Are you the new doctor? Where's the one I see? So that can be frustrating when you're trying to help people out and they're kind of dismissive.
Okay. So there's a bunch of COVID questions too. I think I'm going to group those and save those towards the end. But here's a good one. How often are you performing implant cases, if any?
So me personally, I think I just placed an implant 2 weeks ago. But the implants is something that Aspen's been. Sorry, somebody's popped up on my computer. We had a big initiative on this year that we were supposed to. I just lose everybody.
No, you're still good. I can hear you.
Had a big initiative this year that we were supposed to start right around when March and April came, where we were trying to get our doctors more and more involved in placing implants. Some of the more experienced doctors and owners place implants daily, and that might be all they do. But we're trying to get that more and more into the generalized populace. So this year, at the beginning of the year, we actually formed a partnership with CareStream, Noble BioCare, and we're adding cone beam CBCTs to every office, and that along with our iTero machines that we have that we can use for Invisalign, scanning crown and bridge. And the idea is we're going to be able to use the iTero to intraoral scan the teeth, the lips, etc., the opposing arch, and then use the cone beam to find bone width, depth, nerves, upload that onto a site, and they will basically design the surgical guide for you. And that with our partnership with Novell, we get the implants and all the gear and the help from them from their surgical assistants and stuff to really kind of streamline it. So again, depending on your experience and what your knowledge of implants, but if you have a surgical guide there, you really just kind of drill a hole into the hole and you can't mess it up. So they're relatively easy. And we're really hoping, and we were putting a big investment into that because that's something that's becoming more and more prevalent and more predictable. And because of that, we can keep the prices competitive and make it more and more affordable for patients.
Okay, great. I just want to take a second for those of you who are getting in late. Again, I just want to say the bottom has the Q&A option, so you can submit your questions anonymously, and I can pose them to Dr. Christy here. So feel free to continue using that tool. I still have some more questions listed here. Here's a good one. How involved are you in the business aspect of the practice?
Me now, I'm pretty involved. Now, does that mean I look over every single financial report every single day? No, but we have people for it. But as far as nuts and bolts, what doctors we need, where we're trying to expand, whether we're opening up a new office or not. I just had to get another Panorex in one of the machines in one of our offices today. So I stay pretty involved in that, and that's constantly talking to my doctors, constantly talking to the regional managers or the directors that we have. So I kind of have a knowledge of what's going on in every single office. But as I said earlier, when I started, I was pretty much just learning dentistry, and that's kind of where the focus is, or should be, in my opinion, with any new grad is learning the dentistry aspects of it, getting that down, and then getting involved. So for me, when I was just working in one office, I was involved. I would definitely be involved with, like, let's say the hiring. Personally, it's my decision, the hiring of the dental assistants and people in the back. But I left my office manager up front responsible for, let's say, hiring the receptionists, etc. Because there's only so much time you have in the day, and I tried to focus that more on the clinical care, less on some of the administrative stuff.
So once you take on ownership of a practice, I mean, there's nothing really telling you what you can and can't do.
No.
Okay. So now vice versa. I mean, how involved is the actual corporation involved in running the practice?
So they're there to support me and support my growth and support the growth of the business. And, from the business standpoint of it, they'll make suggestions. Hey, this is what, we want to advertise, or we find that this is the location that we think is going to be good, and they'll do all that research. And then for me, I'll kind of review it and decide, yeah, if this can move forward, or look into other things like that. But they know what they're doing. When I joined in 07, I think there was 100 practices, and there's now, as you said at the beginning, 815 or 20, whatever it is. So they're doing something right. And so I, take their advice on things, and we communicate and we figure things out. And most of the time we agree on stuff, but if we don't, we work it out like any partnership is.
Okay. So this question just came in. What is your opinion on people giving Aspen Dental and corporate dentistry in general a bad reputation, like lacking sanitation, and very busy days with lots of patients, leading to seemingly worse treatment?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I'll say this: there's 815 offices, and you take a collective 815 of anything. I tell patients it's not Burger King. Every single offer is not the same. It's the dental provider and the dental care, the team that you're working with. And so obviously, Aspen's a branded dentistry, so we try to keep everybody in line. Try to get the doctors that are really in this relationship with as good as possible. But sometimes the student could have a bad experience in some of those offices, and a patient could too. I mean, it does happen, but the numbers and vast majority of the patients we see, and the number of offices and people that we have, I think that's a bare minimum. As far as the sanitation and stuff, I mean, I know you'll probably go into this like Corona stuff later, is we have access to more PPE and stuff than pretty much anybody else. So our relationship with Henry Schein, we've never been short on gloves or 95 masks or bubble wrap. Foot covers, hair covers, everything, face shields. I had a lot of classmates that were unable to open their private practices because they couldn't get level 3 masks during the heat of this. And meanwhile, we were giving out level 3 masks to every patient that walked in the building, just to have them wear throughout the operatories and stuff. So, yeah, I found that interesting, I guess.
Okay. So is there specific N95 masks that have to be used in the practice?
Well, a lot of that's state to state and CDC recommendations and stuff like that, with recommendations and stuff. But as far as COVID, we have a screening system right up front, and we try to screen every patient right now. In most of the states, including this one, the only patients we don't let anybody in the building unless they're active patients. So there's no guests out there, and the waiting rooms are all shut down basically. People kind of wait out in their cars, and then we kind of call them in as their appointments in. So trying to be as careful as we can, just like everybody else is today.
Okay. So here's another one. This is a common misconception. Does Aspen have a non-compete agreement?
So Aspen does not. I found this out one time in an actual. So as all these offices are individually owned, right? And so when I offer somebody, I don't personally ever have a non-compete. You can come work for me, and this is the vast majority of the owners in the company. You can come work for us, and if you don't like it, you could open up a practice across the street. There's nothing to stop you. That being said, one time I was in a dental school, one of these type of things, and girl raised my hand and said, "Well, I signed a non-compete," and I was like, "Huh? Or for what? What company?" And she was like, "Aspen." I was like, "Where?" And she mentioned a different state. It was on somewhere in the Midwest, and I was like, "Well, I guess that owner had a non-compete." So that was the first time I'd heard of it. But again, we have the right to do that as owners. Aspen does not dictate that one way or the other. So that owner wanted to have a non-compete. So again, I don't, and the vast majority don't. Aspen doesn't recommend that. But if you're an owner, you do have the ability to. You're working for the owner. You're not working for Aspen Dental. You're working for the owner of that business, that BC.
Right. Okay. Another question here. It's pretty general, and I'm sure you will say the same. How much does a new grad typically make when joining Aspen?
Well, nowadays, the typical pay is $550 to $600 a day is the minimal.
Your audio is going a bit in and out.
I'd say around 140 grand is the starting point. That's with no bonuses. So if you're working in a busy practice, you're going to make more than that. And that's based on your daily rate plus incentive, which, and then as an MCD that goes up substantially, and as an owner or a partner that goes up substantially. So it really depends on the market where you're at, but a lot of those, depending on where you guys want to end up, you'll be able to get those answers more definitively in that area through the recruiters or through people before you go anywhere. It really depends on where you are in the country, just like a lot of differences in pay in different states or different cities in any profession.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, so you will typically, coming out of school, you will start off as an associate, and associates will make between 8 to 10%. And when I say 8 to 10%, that's profit share of the whole practice as a whole. So whatever the whole practice produces at the end of the month, the associate will collect a percentage. And then you also have the daily rate, which is what's negotiated with yourself and the practice owner once you come on board. So when I say it varies, it really does vary because, like Dr. Christy said, based on geography, based on each different practice, based on the dentist in the practice, there's a lot of variabilities that determine how much you'll get paid. And again, that's negotiable with the owner. Good question.
Yeah, the percentage is kind of unique in the sense that, and that's the reason why we kind of do it that way is, as he was saying, it's a collective of the practice. So if you're working with me and there's some big case going on, some full mouth extraction case or something like that, I'm not going to steal it from you because it's going into the collective of the practice. I want you to learn how to do it. I want you to be able to do that procedure. So, if you get involved, if you get in there and, you can't get a few teeth out, come get me. I'll get them out for you. But we want you guys to learn. We're not going to steal the bigger cases and keep you from having them because if you pay doctors completely on their own self-work, you'll end up with people competing with each other. And we really try to build a team environment within the offices.
Absolutely. Here's another question. Is there a production that is expected?
No. I can't give you a specific number on that. It really did. We try to keep people busy. Everybody's skill sets is going to be different. We're not, initially as an associate, we want you to learn more than anything else. I'm not really expecting you to add a whole lot to when we start because you're just learning. I have a brand new associate with me this week that she just started last Thursday and she just shouted me all week. And so far she's just, followed me around and learned. And she's bobbed in here and there. And then starting tomorrow, we're going to start getting her some, regular procedures to go and anything that she wants to do, I'm letting her do. She's just trying to, right now, it's all more about learning. We think the production and stuff is going to come down the road.
Absolutely. So another good question here. So it says, Dr. Christy, do you have any practices that are still closed? Did you have to close majority of your practices down? What did that do to you financially? And did you receive any help from the corporation during that time? So there's a lot of questions. We'll start with, did you have any practices close? And did you have to close majority of your practices in the past?
I think I had to close about half of them at the worst of it. We tried to keep some open kind of specifically for emergency care in different areas. Some states were, well, I'm not in those states, but they might be aware of, but some states like Ohio and PA basically shut down all dentistry. Most of the states like South Carolina and Georgia, for emergency care, we stayed open. We shut down a couple of them regionally, tried to keep a few open in certain areas so that we could keep patients that were having toothaches or having infections still able to at least go to one office within a geography. Well, right now, I've got every single office open full time right now. There was one that we only had open 2 days a week, but we just opened it back up to 5 days a week this week. So every single office is actually rebounded right back to almost the exact where we were prior to Corona because, well, as you guys know, teeth don't get better. They only get worse. And so it's not really something that you can put off. And I was just having this conversation earlier. What's an emergency? Well, it might be quote elective today, but if you don't do that fill-in today, it turns into an emergency tomorrow. So you can't really just stop dentistry for too long without causing, irreparable harm on patients' mouths. Financially, well, it wasn't good, like any business that went through that. But we were able to get through it. And like I said, fortunately now it's pretty much fully recovered. So we did have some concerns in the worst of it. Like, are we going to be able to open up some practices that we had planned on? Was I going to be able to hire a second doctor in some of these areas where, but now because of the way we rebounded, everybody that I pre-hired is still coming on board and starting. I just had 3 more doctors start in the past few weeks. And we're opening up another practice in Beaufort, South Carolina, August 13th. So we're back to where we were before, fortunately. So hopefully that continues.
Great. So like in these obviously unprecedented times, what has Aspen Dental Management done for you in these last few weeks or even month or so?
Well, a lot of it, the support was there all the time. We would have two or three phone calls a week with everybody kind of talking through what the state regulations had changed, where they were, what the expectations were, where PPP was, where are we getting N95 masks, where are we getting some states needed the gown, some states needed, full face coverage, all those things, trying to keep up with things. We started trying to do phone dentistry, as the term teledentistry, in some of these states that were completely shut down, so we could at least, screen patients whether they needed an antibiotic or et cetera. So there's a ton of support from that standpoint that I know, and then going through, different options with different things, when we should open the room or not, when we should be shut down all these type of things that help minimize the how bad things were. Let's be honest. So that we were able to rebound the way we are. And like I said, right now, I think this month we were doing 99% of what we did pre-corona. So some of my offices are actually having their best months ever. So it's been a full rebound in the last 2 months. So.
Yeah. So, how did you handle the open cases or like the upcoming appointments?
Well, yeah, we kept people on. We never really got rid of everybody. So we always kept people on to handle those phone calls, reschedule patients. Unfortunately, I had to change some of those because we didn't know, when the government came out there initially, like, okay, everybody just shut down for 2 weeks and then everything's going to be good. And we all know that wasn't true. So some of it was, okay, well, we're shutting down in March, but we'll get them rescheduled in April. The emergency stuff, we never stopped. Fortunately from that perspective, we were fine, but it was more whether it was fillings or regular cleanings, hygiene was one of the things that was one of the last to come back because, the aerosols and everything that are produced were the last things that we kind of brought back. But everything else, we tried to do the best we could when we could and kept, people in the office to answer the calls to make sure patients kind of knew where we stood. And so we were able to rebound the way we were. So.
Okay. So, obviously you yourself owning 24 practices and your problems are amplified, obviously. How do you manage your time and make sure that every practice is covered and getting the right amount of attention, making sure that it's, covered properly?
Well, I probably spent more time on the phone the last 3 months than I had my entire life. Because, my partners and my doctors were looking for answers all the time and the government kept changing everything every other minute. And, and obviously, nobody really knows what's going on even today. So things are changing constantly. And, I'm just constantly having feedback with my doctors, my teams, so they can answer the questions to their staff and so on. And then, again, we just tried to do the best we could. And fortunately, there's a big support staff there that is there to help me and try to guide me the best way they can as the new developments are coming out almost daily for a while there.
Right. Okay. Here's a good one. Is there any advice from Aspen you didn't take or you didn't agree with?
Advice that I didn't take?
Right.
Yeah. About 14 years ago, they were all about CE courses with these mini implants. they were going to be, oh, the greatest thing ever. I was like, I don't know about that. Well, turn out many implants don't work very well. So, and and they learned that. I will tell you, we're always constantly trying to kind of stay ahead of that. That's one thing with the company that, nobody ever wants to be like Blockbuster and just think, hey, we're doing awesome. Just keep doing what we're doing. It's going to win. And then, Blockbuster, it's gone, obviously, So these new companies come out like Netflix and replace everything. Or bookstores and Amazon comes out or anything else, So we're constantly trying new things, and the company's certainly trying to stay ahead of it with technology and different things to try to make sure that we're never falling behind. So we try new initiatives all the time. 2 years ago, it was Invisalign with the Tyro machines and stuff. And that was going pretty darn good. But then Corona came and that shot that down for a while because it was one of the last things that you got going on. And from an emergency standpoint, there's not really too much emergency ortho appointments. And like I said, and now we're trying to get ahead of it with implants and stuff to try to stay and make sure that we're staying up with the technologies, etc. So.
Okay. So I'm just gonna summarize this question. As an associate, are you expected to learn at a certain pace? Like for example, you're not doing the same cases as an associate, perhaps, or would you say you are?
That's very hard to answer because everybody's skill set within your own classes, that people have different skill sets. Some people are ahead of, and some people are a little bit further behind. And so, I try to identify what, the new doctor knows and what they don't know and what I can help them with, and make suggestions accordingly. If I see them struggling, here, let me show you, what might help you out, So that's very hard to answer. I mean, like I said, I want you to be able to push yourself, but within reason too. I don't want you coming out, doing that full mouth extraction case and then coming and getting me afterwards and there's 28 teeth broken off and sinus purse everywhere. And I should have got me after the first teeth broke off, but so everything's within reason. But we want you to learn. And the one thing I've always said to everybody is, we do so much broad dentistry and everything from removable to fixed to to implants to extractions to that you're going to get a big vast experience, and ultimately whether it's not right for you, take all that knowledge with you. I can't take it back, so everything you learn, hopefully you don't leave, but if you do, you're taking it with you. And as I said before, the good thing is we're also constantly growing. So even if you move to another state, there's often opportunities within the company. So there's doctors that transfer within Aspen all the time for various reasons, whether it's their other families, other gets a job somewhere else, or they just want to relocate, or there's an opportunity for them to grow from an associate to a clinical director, et cetera. So I relocated down to South Carolina. So I've transferred too, so to speak.
So what kind of cases are you actually seeing now yourself as an owner?
I saw everything. I mean, today I did, delivered 2 bridges. I extracted a bunch of teeth. I did a bunch of fillings. I did some dentures. I mean, I'm still doing dentistry. So I'm still very nuts and bolts. I'll do anything if I'm in an office. I try to help out, be as hands-on as possible. Like I said, this week, I've been working with a brand new grad, so I've been trying to show her and have her learn as much as she can just by doing, I guess, the knowledge that I have. And I try to do that with with any doctors. If I'm teaching them to do a certain way, it's probably because I tried it the other way and it doesn't work. So I'm helping you learn through my mistakes, I guess.
Right. Let's see.
But some of the owners, like I said, some of the other owners may do 90%. All they do is implants. It really depends. Every one of us is a little different. So.
Right. So how are you managing your expenses right now with how everything's going? Are you having to, limit certain expenses due to patient load, or is things going back to normal?
Well, as I said, this month things are normal, but during the worst of it, yeah, I mean, we stopped all advertising. We minimized, staffing in areas where we had, we don't need 4 assistants. We only need 2 that day. hygiene, we had to basically shut down during the worst of it. Most states, they required that. So, you know, supplies, you know, that we didn't need, we're obviously not doing as much dentistry, so we don't order as much. But as I said, knock on wood here, it's back to normal. So we're, you know, expanding still, and we're hiring more doctors, or else probably wouldn't be on the phone or on this Zoom with you guys. So, you know, we're still moving forward. So, and I don't think that's going to stop, because as much as Corona's, you know, the COVID-19 is not going anywhere anytime soon. I think, you know, they realize they can't stop dentistry or medicine, because anything that's elected turns to emergency, and we end up the same issues. So, you know, we're doing our best to stay safe and keep our staff safe and keep our patients safe, keep ourselves safe, but still do what, you know, what we're supposed to do.
So there's a question here that's similar to what you were just touching on. What changes are you making when you're seeing patients now?
As far as
So I'm guessing in terms of like PPE, like what you're doing before seeing the patient at the front.
we screen people before they even come in and make sure, you know, as much as they answer, that they haven't been around anyone that's been exposed, and they're, you know, they haven't tested positive, they haven't been out of the country or in the high risk states. Of course, some of the states that we're in are considered high risk states now. So, I mean, things have changed, those change day to day almost. We take their temperature when they come in. We have them wear masks throughout the office the whole time, except for wearing it in the mouth, obviously. Staff themselves are, you know, wearing masks throughout the day, even up front. We have shields in front of the check-in, check-out areas. You know, we ordered, most of the offices are utilizing ice, those things. So mouth guards with the suction tubes in them, so it limits the aerosols. It sucks them right out of the way. Isolites, get the term on. But anyway, we ordered all those throughout the offices, so that when you're doing fillings, etc., that'll limit the aerosols that are in the air. We got hand sanitizer everywhere. We're spraying, wiping things down left and right. Like I said, we don't let anybody into the office anymore except for the patients themselves. We keep everybody in unless they're actively being seen. We have them kind of check in, send them a text, or have somebody go out and grab them when it's time for their appointment.
Okay. Yeah. So with the variety of practices that you're looking over, I mean, how did you determine like the best course of action for each specific practice?
As far as what? As far as
the pandemic, right?
Some of it had to do with doctors, the staff that we had, the location. So Roma, being pregnant, was a little more gun shy at first when it first came out. So you know, we closed her office down and kept this other Savannah. So that she's in Pooler, which is a suburb of Savannah. You don't know. And then so we kept the Savannah office open. One of our other doctors has an elderly husband, and she was a little bit more concerned. So, you know, some of it was just looking at the staff in general until we made sure that we had, you know, more and more knowledge of what this disease is, as everybody else was learning, and then also making sure we got as, you know, the best protective gear possible out there, so that we can make sure that everybody was again, as protected as we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, since we're talking about something that's unprecedented, like the disaster that's happening now, right? You know, we're here talking virtually because we can't meet with the schools in person. Have there been any other disasters or like emergency situations in your practices that you've had to deal with like this? Not like this, but
I mean, the closest would be like hurricane season or something, where, you know, we had to shut down. You know, every year it's the worst hurricane in the world is coming through Georgia and South Carolina. It seems like the last 5 years. Storm of the century, storm of the year, storm of the millennia, storm of, I don't know. The media changes it. So, you know, we've had that happen where we've had to shut down offices for 3, 5, 2 weeks sometimes because of hurricanes. But compared to this, I mean, no, it's
okay. So in terms of PPE, I know you've been mentioning the partnership with Henry Schein, and just to add on to that, we are the second largest recipient of supplies behind the U.S. government. So do you feel that you are getting enough support in terms of PPE to provide for yourself and your staff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have, I haven't run out at all. I mean, short of when we were first getting the N95s, I mean, I actually gave one of my classmates boxes of gloves one time because she couldn't mask because she couldn't open. So, we're giving out, level 3 masks to patients when they walk in the door. And there's some, like I said, there's some states where that's, they're having trouble getting those themselves. So, um, that's part of the benefit that we have being in such a big organization is that we have, that bigger buying power to get this stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's see. I want to make sure I don't reread any questions. So in terms of mentorship, was that one of the things that influenced your decision coming out of school?
No. Like I said, I think in the beginning, as I said there, I just was working in a private practice that there really wasn't enough work to go around. And I found, as I said, he was stealing he wasn't stealing it, it was his practice, but he was taking the more involved, bigger cases, whether it was, a bridge or veneer case or something. And I found myself stuck with MODBL. Back then it was amalgam fillings all day long. And I was only getting paid based on the commission, what I was doing. So, there were days where I might have made like $10. It just really wasn't working out. So I just kind of took it as on a whim and thought, all right, well, worst case scenario, I'll use it as a year to learn, and then I'll go and either buy it in my own practice or maybe try to partner with somebody else again. At the time, I didn't even know that there was any way to grow or anything along those lines. We didn't quite have the recruiting that we had now. Your job didn't exist back then, so.
Yeah. Here's a good one. So again, flashback for you, but when, you were coming out of school, oh, I missed it. Hold on. Sorry, hold on one second. All right, I can't find it. Let's just say, oh, there it is. Okay. So you're speaking about partnership. There's a question about partnership. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that and what that looks like and, really what it means?
So for me, and it's really distinctive to every owner, my ultimate goal is to get a partner in every single office. And right now, I think I partnered about half my offices. I've got 5 partners now, 6 partners now. And some of them are just partnered in one office. I've got one, Dr. Patel, who was supposed to be on here, and partnered in 2 of my offices. And I've got another partner up in New England that's partnered in 3 of my offices. And it really is specific on what their goals are, their capabilities as well. And then we just kind of work it out. And Dr. Patel has been a great partner for me down in the Georgia, Pooler, and now Hinesville market. Well, now she's pregnant, so she's gonna have a baby tomorrow. So she's got a whole nother life coming on, but she's been great. I've got my partner in New England's been with me for 10 years now. So for me, with them, as they grow from an associate, that's what I actually enjoy the most, is seeing doctors grow. And so I'm seeing them grow from being an associate to the lead doctor, and then to mentor themselves, them taking on doctors, them growing, them getting, an attorney, an associate, an MCD, them taking on more of these business, and then me being there for support in helping them with whether it's still dental questions. I mean, I still get implant questions by all of them all the time, but also business questions, and advice in that regard. And we talk on the phone, work things out, and come up with a common plan and a goal to try to grow the office, grow the business, and continue to give care to the patients.
Absolutely. So when did you actually take on that mentorship role after joining Aspen? When did you actually start helping other people grow?
Well, after the other doctor left, in the first practice I was at, because she moved out to California, I took over as the lead doctor, and we added an associate, who was Dr. Ray, who's my partner in New England. Um, and as his skills were growing, we opened up another office, and um, I took him from that associate role in the office that I was at and had him become a lead doctor in the other office that we had. And he continued to excel, and we added another office. And I partnered with him in the original office, and then as I continued to grow too, and he wanted to grow more, I partnered with him in two more, and then uh, came down south and started growing down here. And Roma Patel was the first partner I had down south. And then since then, I've got partners in Myrtle Beach and Charleston and out in Greenville Market as well.
Okay. There's a follow-up question here to that. So when an associate comes on board, how soon can they become a lead dentist?
I've seen that happen in 3 months. I've seen it happen in 3 years. Really, it really depends on a few things. One, obviously, their skill set, what their capabilities are. It also could be, the need in the area. If there's a certain area that they want to be in and there's already a lead doctor in every one of those offices, there might not be the opportunity to grow as quickly in that area. Until we either add another office or somebody leaves, or I don't know, but it can happen quick depending on their skill set and the need, and it can take longer depending on the skill set and the opportunity.
Okay. There's a question about like mission work, like giving back. That's funny that that question's asked. I actually went to Augusta a few months ago before COVID and was there while the Mouthmobile was there. And that is just one thing that Aspen does to give back to the community. So the Mouthmobile is actually a big van that provides free dental care to veterans, and that's advertised on the news, and the van moves throughout the country. So that is one thing that Aspen does to give back. Dr. Christy, do you want to add anything else onto that? I know there's a variety of different things, and Dr. Amadawami is in charge of that for the most part. I mean, do you want to just talk about it a
Yeah,
little bit?
we do mission trips kind of internationally yearly, if not by more than once a year. Whether that was down to Costa Rica or Haiti. I believe we were supposed to, I think they got canceled because of Corona, but they were supposed to go out to Thailand. Islands, Vietnam. They were going to go out there and help in some of those remote areas. I believe they went to Dominican Republic one year. Nicaragua before. So we kind of go around and down South America even and try to help out more rural areas where they don't get the care and access to dentists and go back that way. We also do a free dental day for veterans every year, where we just open up the practices and have veterans come in, and we do as much dentistry as we can, on those patients for no cost to them. So.
Yeah, and that trip to Thailand that you're speaking about, that was going to include students, and especially and even students that were not even signed to Aspen yet. So, I mean, in terms of what Aspen gives back, it's pretty astonishing to see how much leverage they have and opportunity they have because they're working collectively. Great. Here's a question a little bit off topic. Somebody's asking, can I work 4 days a week?
You can. It's again, that's a discussion to have, with recruiter, with the owner. It depends again on that market, what the owner's need is, what the practice's need is. So, typically we are open 5 days a week, and we are open at least 1 or 2 Saturdays a month. But it's not that I can't say blankly no, that's not possible, because it could be. There might be an office that only needs a part-time doctor and just needs somebody 3 days a week. It just depends on the situation. So I can't say no. I can't really say it. It just depends on the owner, the market, and what the need of the practice is at that time.
Okay. I mean, have your hours had to change at all because of COVID?
Yeah, we shortened the days that we were still open. I think for the most part during April and March and April, we were open in practices 4 days a week, 9 to 3 or so in each of those offices, the ones we kept open. So they certainly weren't the ones even that we did keep open, they weren't open. And they weren't open full capacity. We didn't necessarily have the full staff there. We kind of rotate the staff around as best we could to try to keep people employed, but keep practice going, but also not keep 8 people standing around doing nothing. So
Right.
uh, that right now, we're like I said, we're back to full hours and full staff. So
Okay. Here's a good question here. They're asking, what kind of cases are you referring out typically?
referring out, well, we don't have to refer a whole lot out because most of our practices we have endodontists and oral surgeons coming to the practice. So even if it's a situation where it's impacted wisdom teeth or some big all-on-4 case or something that I might not want to do as a general dentist, I can have my oral surgeon take that case for me. And same thing with endo. I haven't done a molar root canal in 15 years, and I'm not going to do one again. So, we have an endodontist comes to the practice, so we don't have to refer those patients out. We can if, let's say, they need to be seen right away or something like that. But because they're, most of the time patients prefer that because when they come in, we can tell them not only, hey, we can get you scheduled next Wednesday for the extractions. Here's the cost. Here's what insurance covers. We can go over all that and give them the appointment that day versus them coming in. Yeah, I've got this massive toothache. Oh, here's a antibiotic and a piece of paper to note to call somebody else. And then the patient inevitably doesn't know whether their insurance is accepted, whether or not the doctor has any openings, and so on and so forth. So people are more and more kind of liking one-stop shops. But so we don't have to refer out that much. It'd just be almost an emergency type thing, or if there was some severe perio or orthodontics that you can't do with Invisalign.
Yeah.
But most of it, we try to give them the opportunity to have it done at the office that we're at.
And I think there's a good thing that maybe you could talk about a little bit about having a lab in-house. Obviously you have oral surgeons, access to them, and endodontists to come in. But I mean, how convenient is it for you to have a lab in-house?
Well, yeah. So every single one of our offices has a removable prosthodontic lab tech, like in the office. So all of our denture steps, wax, impressions, wax bites, wax try-ins to the processing of the dentures can be done in the office, and it makes it streamlined, super fast to get these procedures done because you're not having to mail every step it out and wait for it to get back. And also if there's let's say you do a wax try-in and the bite's slightly off or one of the teeth needs to be rotated, instead of again having to mail that back out, you can just bring it back to your lab tech. 20 minutes later, they can rotate that tooth or lengthen it or whatever, reset the bite, and you can go back in, try it in, and hopefully move it forward to the next step.
Okay, great. Here's one that just came in. How are emergencies taken care of? And are they evenly distributed among doctors in the office?
Yes. So, I mean, emergencies, basically, if somebody walked in, like, I guess if you're saying like somebody just walked in and was like, oh my God, my tooth's killing me. We're going to do obviously the best we can to get them in that day. And really it just is whichever doctor is available first might go in and see the patient, see what needs to be done. If they can do the extraction, great. If they can't, but the other doctor has an opening, we try to create this team environment so everybody helping each other out. So if you're in an office with more than one doctor, which initially you definitely would be, coming in as an associate,
Okay.
even if you can't get to it, hopefully the other doctor can.
Right. All right. Well, Dr. Christy, I just want to say thanks for volunteering your time. This is something you didn't even have to do. You took time out of your day to help some of these students just understand a little bit more about Aspen, kind of what your story looks like and where you are. So honestly, really appreciate it. Unfortunate that Dr. Roma Patel couldn't come on as she's possibly having a child tomorrow, which is fair enough. But hopefully we can
give her an out on this. We'll give her a pass on this one.
Yeah. Valid pass. But yeah, honestly, thank you so much. I just shared my screen again, guys, just so you can see the aspendentalce.com. That is an opportunity for you guys to get free CE, anything that you want to learn a little bit more about, you're interested in. It's honestly free. And we've offered it to the, dental industry just out of our own whim, because we're willing to help people throughout this, crazy times. Everybody's stuck at home. I'd much rather be taking you guys somewhere a little bit more interesting than behind your computer in your office or wherever you are. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is right there at the bottom, Sami Jilla. But other than that, Dr. Christy, do you want to leave any closing statements, or you want to say anything else before we sign off here?
No, I mean, as he said, there's his email. If you guys ever have any further questions or anything, just reach out to him, and I'll certainly, if he can't answer them, I know he'll reach out to me, and I'll try to get you the help. And hopefully, things get better in the world, this crazy world, and like he said, we can get back to seeing you soon or something.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Dr. Christy, thanks again. Legend. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
Bye.